Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hometown Hero Banner Revealing Ceremony. It has been a long year. So this mic might cut out a few times due to the speaker being over there, but it was the best place we can kind of find to accommodate everybody. So on behalf of Mayor Jennifer A. Maxey and the City of North Adams, I am honored to welcome you to today's ceremony. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to thank the many people and organizations who helped bring this project to light. Thank you to Beck's Printing for helping bring the banners to life, to McCann, Mr. Brosnan, who is also a fellow veteran, for his immediate support and leadership. To the McCann CAD and Metal Fab students who designed and assembled 100 brackets for this program, thank you. Thank you, thank you. You have done a tremendous job. Mr. Josh Meswar, Glenn Andrews, Greg King, John Klein, Mr. Kratz, thank you all for guiding these students, helping them along the way, and bringing this project, which saved a lot of money, to fruition and helping us put the banners up. All of those banners, or all of those brackets, are on the Hadley Overpass. Mr. Pat Bolger and his class, thank you for developing the website in which we are live with now. Most of you, if you haven't received the flyer from the jury students, it's got a QR code on it that'll bring you to the website. If you haven't gotten one, I'm sure they still have some to hand out. Cascade School Supplies, who donated the paper that 80% stayed up. The wind decided not to play with us very well, so some of the banners, as you know from the email or from driving through the city, have revealed themselves. But we can't really control everything, so they look nice. We're also deeply grateful to Mitchell Moranti. So he's the wire and alarm inspector. So him and I have kind of been holding hands for the past 2 months on this, trying to get brackets up, me running to Home Depot at 7 o'clock at night to grab extra bolts, and it's been fun. But Mitch has put in a tremendous amount of work, putting the brackets up, putting the banners up, and just being a support mechanism for me to ask questions to and kind of gain some insight from his expertise on how we should operate. So once again, can we get a round of applause for Mr. Mitchell Moranti? So during the installation, we also had a large group of volunteers, one of which was Mitch's dad, Steve Moranti. The fire department sent more than 10 volunteers out here who spent all of Wednesday kind of helping and being instrumental in the process. Marisi and Associates, who donated one of their lifts for us. Diversified Energy, who also donated a lift. And obviously with those 2 lifts plus Mitch's bucket truck was instrumental in allowing us to get these banners up in time. For those that don't know, we were still doing this yesterday. A few months ago, I trying to find a photographer for this event, and it was recommended to me to reach out to Justin Wag. And so I reached out to him and kind of gauged his interest and asked for a quote. And then to my surprise, Justin, after a few emails back and forth about what we wanted, has donated his time to be out here. He's going to be the photographer that does the pictures at the end that you all highlighted your names for. So thank you to Justin for donating your time to this ceremony and this project. Travis Rivers, who I don't believe is here, he also lended his time to be out and helping us. He was our runner with all the banners and food that we had bought for the volunteers. And then there's just many other volunteers. So if I didn't mention your name specifically, I apologize. But everybody that's been involved, it's been an absolute community project. Built spreadsheets and collected data and whatnot, but without the mayor, the city workers, everybody that was involved in this project, there's no way I could have done it on my own. It's just way too big. And if you guys look around right now, we have 173 chairs that were put out this morning. And we're probably, if I had to guess, at 350 people right now. So clearly, this is something that the community really wanted. They're out here today. All of you are out here today to help us with the ceremony and honor these veterans. And so I thank all of you for everything that you've given to this project and helped me make it as great as it is, along with all of the volunteers. So thank you. So obviously we have the jury band here. We have the American Legion, which is behind me. And then there's other organizations. I know the VFW commander's here. Representative John Barrett is here. The city council is here. And we have other state dignitaries that are here as well. So thank you to everybody, city council, state dignitaries, and veteran organizations that have come out to support this event as well. So today we gather to recognize the brave men and women from our community who have served or who are currently serving the United States Armed Forces. These banners are more than images. They are a tribute to service, sacrifice, courage, and pride, and they remind us that the freedoms we enjoy every day have been protected by our neighbors, family members, friends, and hometown heroes. This project began on May 21st, 2025. And if you guys know the date today, it's almost exactly a year. It began with an idea and a great deal of determination. After about 2.5 months of work on the design, we arrived at a banner that truly reflected the honor and the respect of local heroes. Applications officially launched in October of 2025, and from there, the project continued to grow through the support of many people. That same month, I reached out to McCann for help with the banner brackets. It was just an idea I had to get them involved and see if there was any interest. And the request was sent on October 14th. Within hours, Mr. Brosnan had replied back. So for you that may or may not know, and I mentioned it in the beginning, Mr. Brosnan is also a fellow veteran. And the crazy part about it is that Mr. Brosnan and I were actually on the same deployment in 2003 in Iraq. We didn't know then, but we figured it out through discussions that we had during this project. So that was kind of cool to figure out. So after Mr. Brosnan had responded, we set up a meeting about 2 days later. We met at McCann. We kind of talked about what my idea was. I gave him some of the brackets that we had already had. We gave him our prototype banner that was made, and they kind of took it and ran with it from that point. So they redesigned those brackets to make them much more sturdy and much better than they were. So because of the partnership and the McCann students and their instructors redesigning and building those, we ended up with, again, enough brackets to put 50 banners on. In November of 2025, Mr. Bolger came into my office to talk about his ideas for a website, which is also kind of crazy because in the beginning of this, one of my thoughts was that it would be really cool if we had a website where people could go on, see the banners, read a little biography, but I didn't know I wasn't able to do it. I don't have that type of background to do anything like that. So when Mr. Bolger came in, it was awesome because he had that same idea. And so thanks to Mr. Bolger and his students, that idea became a reality and gave the program another meaningful part. It also included more of the community, more of the students, which from the get-go, from the beginning of the project, my intention was, again, to involve as much of the community as possible, but also to involve the younger generation that I believe, doesn't really quite understand what the meaning of the military is, because they see on television the bickering back and forth, or the movies, and there's just much more to it. And so getting them involved and kind of giving them a meaningful piece, so when 30 years from now they drive through the city, they can say even then to their kids that they helped build this program. And so that was a really cool, touching part to it. So as we begin, let us do so with gratitude, respect, and pride in the hometown heroes that we're here to honor today. So we'd like to thank the families of the honorees. Your loved ones' service represents courage, dedication, selflessness, and today we honor not only them, but also the families and friends who stood beside them. Before we begin the program, we do have a congratulations to offer. So we have a young student here today who, over the past couple months, was part of the VFW Patriotism Poster Contest. This poster, which is displayed in a picture on the table in the back, won first place at the state level for grades K through 2, and now her drawing is going to go to Kansas City with the other state winners for national judging. The posters will be displayed and recognized at the VFW National Convention in Reno, Nevada this July. And so if we could get a round of applause for Sawyer Caproni. And she is standing up in the back, and now she's not. Awesome job, Sawyer. All right, so the event purpose today. I think everybody's kind of gathered that from the speech so far, but it's to recognize our local heroes that either fought and didn't make it home, or they did make it home, they're currently serving, but it's everybody who wore the uniform. I think sometimes we get confused with branches and different types of service. Everybody's a veteran that served in the military in some form, shape. It doesn't matter if it was National Guard, if it was reserves, if it was active duty, Marines, Navy, Space Force, whatever the case may be. You're a veteran, and your family was a veteran, and everything about them is why we're here today. So, something I should have done in the very beginning, because everybody's probably like, who is this guy? So I'm the Veteran Services Officer for Northern Berkshire. My name is Curtis DeRocher. That should have been the beginning, but I'm sorry. All right, so now we're going to do the presentation of colors. Mr. John Moore. If you're able, please stand, remove your hats as we sing the national anthem.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Star-Spangled Banner yet wave.
thank you. John killed it. All right, thank you, John. You may be seated. I shouldn't have had everybody sit. So I shouldn't have had you all sit, and I apologize. It's like being at church. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll start it off, and then you all just follow behind me. I pledge of allegiance.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Pastor Dave.
Very briefly before I pray, I want to share that I am a fan of the game of baseball. I'm an avid fan of the sport, which often brings me out to a place in upstate New York called Cooperstown. And it's in Cooperstown we find the Hall of Fame for the game of baseball. And the center of the building is surrounded by articles and pictures and memorabilia and uniforms and this sort of a thing. But at the center of this building sits the Hall of Monuments. It's almost sacred ground for a fan. There's something almost holy and unique about that place. All of these plaques with the likenesses and the names of the best that have played baseball through the decades. This morning, as a community, we are unveiling North Adams Hall of Fame. When I walk through the Hall of Monuments at the Baseball Hall of Fame, I every time find myself getting chills over the enormity of that moment. And my prayer for us, my encouragement for us as a community, that in the coming months as we walk through our streets and we drive through these streets, we get a little chill. We find ourselves in a bit of reverence for these banners that are hanging here before us. I am not a veteran of the military, and every time I have an opportunity to stand at these events, I am filled with gratitude for those of you that have served, and for those of you that continue to serve. And for anybody that's ever heard me speak at an event like this, whether it's Memorial Day or Veterans Day or other special moments, you know that I do not like how we have watered down the word hero in our society. I love going to Cooperstown, but the great players of the game of baseball are not heroes. They are entertainers. What they have done has not impacted the fabric of my life and our society. Those of you that have served our country are heroes. Those of you that have served in the military, those of you that are police, fire, and EMS, you are truly heroes. Because you serve in such a way that you don't know what the end of the day is going to bring to you. You are people that run toward danger while others are running away. So thank you to all of you that have served. Would you join me in a word of prayer? Precious God, we thank you for this day and the special way in which our community has again gathered. This day has brought us significant purpose and meaning. We gather in respect and reverence. We gather with a sense of awe and wonder. Our hearts are filled with a deep sense of gratitude. For we as a community, we as a Northern Berkshire family stand here today filled with pride. For our hometown heroes are being given a place. our men and women receiving the honor due their place in our midst. Through the decades, our young men and women have left the safety and the security of our little valley, traveling to destinations yet to be determined. Their unifying motivation to serve our great nation. They left with a heart to be the very best as they work tirelessly to protect our country with integrity, with courage, with strength, with dignity, and a heart to serve. Lord God, today we celebrate our hometown heroes. We admire their accomplishments and give thanks for their sacrifices. In the coming days, as we walk and drive through the streets of downtown North Adams, may we acknowledge their names. May we come to know their faces. May we know that each banner carries with it a story that began here in the Berkshires. Bless the families here today that represent these hometown heroes. May this be a banner day for each of them, for they shared this journey with their dear ones. Embrace them today with love, support them with encouragement. And precious God, may we be reminded today what it truly means to be a hero. May we no longer diminish, but forever elevate the word hero, granting it to those who were and remain at the ready to serve our nation, bestowing this word hero on those who are at the ready to give everything that we might remain the nation we are today. We thank you for freedom. We thank you for our way of life. We thank you for the great privileges we have as a people, and today we thank you for Northern Berkshire's hometown heroes. Amen.
Pastor Dave Anderson, thank you for that. Next up, the Mayor of the City of North Adams, Jennifer A. Maxey.
Before I start with my formal remarks, there was one person today we forgot to thank, and that is Curtis. When Curtis came into my office and he said, "This is the year, Mayor, we gotta do the banners," I said, "Curtis, it has to be done tastefully, respectfully, and we have to make sure we are inclusive." Curtis said, "No problem, I can do it." Curtis has spent countless hours on every single detail, including painting himself all of the brackets. So please join me in thanking Curtis from the bottom of my heart for this wonderful day. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here today as we gather not simply to dedicate banners, but to honor the lives of service and legacies that belong to the entire community. A city like North Adams, service is personal. The men and women we honor today are not strangers to us. They are our neighbors, our classmates, our parents, our grandparents, the people we sit next to in church, the people who worked in the mills of North Adams, people who coached our sports teams, raised their families here. They have helped shape the character of this great community. These banners are far more than names and pictures hanging along our streets. They are visible reminders of the values that define North Adams: courage, sacrifice, humility, duty, resilience, and the love of country. They remind every person who passes by this community, remembers our veterans. We honor our veterans, and we are a community that stands for freedom forever. Today, we proudly dedicate these banners, and we honor close to 140 veterans who answered the call to serve our nation. Some served during wartime, and some served during times of peace. But everyone made a sacrifice. They made a commitment to place service above self and country before comfort. And wherever they took their service, they were at risk, but they carried on, and they carried on with the United States of America as their priority. For me, this ceremony is very personal. Today, I will honor 7 of my family members who are veterans. From a very young age, they taught me the true meaning of service. Not only service to your country, but service to your community. They taught me to sacrifice to others, persevere when it is hard, and give me the responsibility to leave things better than what I found. Today, I am honored to wear my father, Edward J. Maxey, his dog tags. And I'm very fortunate that there are 2 dog tags hanging, as my dad came home safe. My father served in the Army during the Korean War. We will also honor my uncle, Jenno Skirbo, who served in the Army during World War II and received a Purple Heart. My uncle Toddy Maxey, who served in the Army as a paratrooper during World War II. My uncle Louis Cassicelli, who served in the Army during the Korean War. My uncle Donald Maxey, who served in the Army during World War II. My uncle Tommy Maxey, who served in the Vietnam War. And my cousin Louis Cassicelli, who was a Marine who served during the Korean War. My family knows what service is, and we are proud of those accomplishments. So as I researched this project, I wondered what went through my grandmother's mind, having her sons in 3 different wars. But by the grace of God, they all returned home safely. Though, like many of our veterans, they carried home the weight and the scars of service, but they also carried home something else: pride for this country, pride for the community, strength and unwavering love for their service. Today, as we recognize those families who also stood with our veterans every step of the way, the spouses, the parents, the children, who all shared sacrifices for military service. Your strength, your patience, and your support are woven in everyone that we honor today. When young people walk the streets of North Adams and look at the banners, I hope that they see more than history. I hope that they see integrity, responsibility, courage, and selflessness. I hope they understand that ordinary people from small communities can do extraordinary things to help others. And to all your veterans, all the veterans here today, please know, in North Adams, your service matters. Your sacrifices are remembered, and your hometown is very proud of you. May these banners stand as a lasting symbol of gratitude from the community, that we will never forget what you have done. And may it remind us that the true strength of community is measured not simply from where you live, but by the people willing to sacrifice something greater than themselves. On behalf of the City of North Adams, it is my great honor to dedicate these banners to all of those who have served our nation with courage and honor. Thank you. God bless our veterans and their families, and God bless America.
Thank you, Mayor Maxey. So today we have a few guest speakers to share and reflect on what they think the hometown hero is to them. We also have a family member and then also another guest. So first up, Mr. David Levesque.
morning. Mayor Maxey, veterans, families and friends. My name's David Levesque. I'm a 28-year Army veteran and a participant in the Operation Iraqi Freedom. What Hometown Heroes means to me. When people say, what's Hometown Heroes, it makes me pause. Because as a veteran, I wore the uniform of our country, and as the American Legion immediate past post commander, I wore another kind of uniform, one that continued service to my community. But I'll tell you honestly, when I hear hero, I don't think of myself. I think of the men and women who did not come home. I think of those who carry burdens heavier than most of us will ever understand. I think of the veteran who comes home quietly, went back to work, raised their families, and never once wanted recognition. To me, Hometown Hero is not about medals, not about rank, not about applause. It's about what you do after the uniform comes off. As a local veteran, I believe service doesn't end when the active duty stops. It simply changes form. Instead of serving overseas, we serve our communities. Instead of protecting a base, we serve right here. Instead of leading troops, we mentor the next generation. As a past post commander, I see hometown heroes all the time. I see them as members who stand in the cold for military honors. Veterans who cook meals so no one feels forgotten. The Legion family who quietly raises funds to help a veteran in need. The spouses who support the service members long after the war is over. Those are hometown heroes. To me, a hometown hero is someone who understands that freedom isn't just defending the battlefields, it's preserving our communities. It's preserved when we teach our children respect the flag. When we help a struggling veteran navigate the VA system. When we bring people together instead of letting them divide. When we choose unity over division. Being a hometown hero in my eyes means you don't retire from caring. It means you stay involved, you show up for meetings, you attend ceremonies, you support local schools, you check fellow veterans, you take responsibility for the town that raised you or welcomed you home. It means that you understand that leadership is not about authority, it's about example. As a veteran, I learned discipline, duty, and teamwork. As past post commander, I learned something just as important. Community is a mission, and every mission requires commitment. A hometown hero doesn't seek recognition. In fact, most of the ones I know would rather sit in the back of the room than stand at a podium. They are the first to volunteer, they are the first to donate, they are the first to lend a hand. And they don't do it for credit. They do it because the town matters. Its veterans matter. To me, being called a hometown hero is not a title to wear. It is a responsibility to live up to. It reminds me that people are watching how we lead, how we treat others, how we represent veterans, how we represent our community. It means carrying yourself with integrity, on and off duty. And maybe, most importantly, it means remembering that service is bigger than one person. If I stand here today as a local veteran and past post commander, I stand on the shoulders of countless others who served before me in war, civic life, and quiet acts of kindness that never made the news. So what does Hometown Heroes means to me? It means continued service. It means leading with humility. It means honoring those who sacrificed more than we ever did. It means being a strong community so that the next generation inherits something worth protecting. And if I can live up to that, even in the smallest of ways, then I feel that I can earn the privilege of being called one. Thank you, and God bless America.
Miss Carol Ethier Kipp.
I would like to begin with a heartfelt thank you to Veteran Services Officer, U.S. Army Master Sergeant Retired, Curtis DeRozier. For everything that he has done to make this momentous occasion become a reality in the city of North Adams. Thank you to Mayor Maxey for her support and to Mitchell Moranti for his tireless work along with others behind the scenes to make this the special day that it is. Now, everyone who is here today to honor a United States veteran, and all veterans deceased or living, has a story to tell. A story that is in their hearts, their souls, and their minds, always has been, always will be. So here's my family's story, mine and that of my two sons, Paul Ethier and Glenn Ethier. My father, their grandfather, was the late PFC Henry J. Contois. He was born, raised, and lived his entire life in North Adams, passing away in 2002 at the age of 87. He loved North Adams and all of the people in it. At the time that he was drafted into the Army to serve our country during World War II, my father was 27 years old, had married my mother, Doris Borden, 4 years earlier, was at that time childless. He was employed at the former Hoosick Cotton Mill on Union Street, working as a thresher tender. On May 20th, 1943, all of that changed when my father received his draft notice in the mail to report to local board number 115 for a physical examination. 2 months later, on July 16th, my father, along with many other North Adams men, many of whom were his longtime friends, boarded a local train headed for Fort Devens, and from there he was transferred to Fort Grant, later Camp Reynolds, and finally Camp Kilmer, before leaving the States, heading for Scotland on January 16, 1944, aboard the Ile-de-France. PFC Henry Contois was trained to serve as a medic in the United States Medical Corps. During World War II, my father's mission was to care for the sick and wounded soldiers wherever he was needed. He also served in station hospitals and general hospitals in Paris, France. His daily focus, along with thousands of others who served in that same capacity, was devotion to their fellow men, the rewards of which were only the gratitude of the sick and injured and the inner knowledge of duty well performed. My family has 939 letters that my father wrote to my mother during his years of service. However, many of them were censored, so they offered no information as to where my father was serving nor what he was doing. Luckily, when I began to read the letters 10 years ago, I found, amongst other things, a small black diary, which my father had brought home with him. Within its pages, he had noted all of his locations throughout his military duty. It is an invaluable resource to unlocking mysteries within his letters, especially the locations of my father's service to our country during the war. On March 21st, 1946, 2 years and 7 months after being drafted into the United States Army, PFC Henry J. Contois was discharged and returned to North Adams by train from Fort Devens, arriving back home at 1 p.m. Upon his return, my father resumed work at the Hoosick Cotton Mill for a brief time, soon taking on work as a helper for local plumber Harry Sutton, and finally, in the 50s, establishing his own business, Henry J. Contois Oil Burner Sales and Service, which he owned and operated in North Adams for over 30 years. I never heard my father talk, not even once, about what he had experienced and endured during his time as an Army medic in World War II. There is one thing, however, that my father did talk about often, and that was the fact that while he was performing his medical duties in the hospitals in Paris, France, he would often be asked to serve as an interpreter. Having been raised in a French-Canadian household, my father was very familiar with the French language, and his bilingual skills came in handy and were very much appreciated by the hospital staff as well as patients. My grandparents had brought their family to North Adams from Quebec, Canada, so that my grandfather could work at the Wall Streeter Shoe Company. The story of my father would not be complete without sharing with you one of the many ways that being the daughter of a former United States medic affected my life. As a young child, whenever I fell, skinned my knee, injured my arm, stubbed my toe, or even had a fever, it was usually Dad, not my mom, who took care of me. I never quite knew why this was so until I grew older. That's when I fully understood about my dad's service in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. And that's when I knew why it was most often he who came to my rescue, carrying his U.S. Army medical kit filled with first aid supplies and saying, "Don't worry, honey, you'll be okay." It has been a true honor to have been invited to share the story of my father, PFC Henry J. Contois, with all of you as we honor our hometown heroes. You all have stories, and each and every one of them is precious. One final thought. Let us never forget that all of these banners are reminders of the real people with real names and with real families who gave their tomorrows for our todays. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Wayne Source.
Thank you very much, and good morning. It is an extreme honor for me to be here this morning as we pay tribute to the men and women that serve their country in all branches of service through this outstanding platform of recognition for our great city. Military service is often captured through facts and figures, strategies, and outcomes. These types of banners honor and remind us that behind every uniform, there is an individual with a unique journey, a journey of service to our country, a family left behind, and a future forever shaped by their experiences. Their voices form a powerful chorus of sacrifice, resilience, patriotism, healing, and in some cases a small but never complete bit of closure from the trauma of war and of being in battle. For those that have served, these banners of honor and tribute will resonate deeply in personal and emotional ways. For those that have not, they will evoke memories of a friend or relative that has served their country. This is a constant reminder to honor the men and women who have given so much. And as we pass by these banners of honor on a daily and continuous basis, I encourage you to remember what each and every one of our veterans has done in service to our great country. Some have been decorated in battle, while others have been deployed. Some may have spent a Christmas Day or Eve working for someone that had a family. Some saved lives. The bottom line is service to keep us safe and free. Remember them always, for they have earned our admiration and respect with their blood, with their sweat, and with their tears, and most importantly, with their ultimate sacrifice for their country. Remember them and remember their stories and never forget them. Remember World War II Army veteran Peter White, who cheerfully told me how much Bob Hope lifted the spirit of his troops at one of his USO shows, and how emotional he became at the end of the show when everyone sang Silent Night. Remember Lieutenant Mark Jaffe, United States Marine Corps, at the Battle of Peleliu, narrowly being run over by a tank and saving the life of a fellow Marine, and telling me with all quietness and humility, that's what we do. Remember Frank Scalise, U.S. Army, and the vicious fighting he endured for 10 months in the combat area called Old Baldy in Korea, and never getting over the friends that he lost in battle. Remember Private Jim Anacostia, recalling a lonely Christmas Eve at the Battle of the Bulge and being placed next to a soldier in a hospital ward. When the soldier died several hours later, Private Anacostia asking if he could go sit with the soldier, the only person in the tent that served as a makeshift hospital morgue, so he wouldn't be alone on Christmas Eve. Remember Lieutenant Paula Smith, United States Army, who recalled being in a war zone as a mother in Afghanistan, and of her 10-year-old son saying, "Mom, if you die, I want to die with you." Remember U.S. Army combat medic Bill Blaisdell, who suffered for years with the memories of, did I do enough, when he put a wounded soldier on a helicopter in Vietnam. Remember Lieutenant Colonel Dorothy Cordomont, United States Army combat nurse, who recalled the harsh realities at the 121st Evacuation Hospital in Seoul, Korea, and of operating in puddles of blood, and of never being able to get over the screaming of injured soldiers. Remember Petty Officer Second Class Mike Lewis, United States Navy, who recalled a harrowing memory where a tragic attack on 4 sailors left the crew completely shaken after 1 died and 3 were critically injured while his ship was in port. Remember Master Sergeant Dave Levesque, decorated combat veteran, who spoke to me with extreme pride on all 150 soldiers under his command making it home while deployed in Iraq. Remember Corporal Mitchell Keel, Marine combat veteran, being a gunner on a Humvee when an IED hit their convoy, and of his base in Kandahar being under constant threat of attacks, and of an explosion that hit so close it knocked him out of his bed one night. And lastly, remember World War II Army combat veteran Chizo Massaconi, my good pal who we recently lost at 103 years old, telling me of the horrors at the Battle of Iwo Jima. And if you wanted to get killed quickly, all you had to do was get out of your foxhole at night. Remember the veterans on these banners of honor and all the veterans in this great country, their stories, service, and powerful memory. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. I'd also like to remember sitting in the front row today, our eldest veteran, Mr. Domenichini. Can you give me a wave, Mr. Domenichini? Right here in the front row. There we go. 108 years old. Thank you for being here, Mr. Domenichini. It is my honor to introduce Representative John Barrett.
I'm here today not as a state representative, not as a former mayor, but as a member of this community. And I could talk about the stories that transpired over the years about the various veterans that came in. But one that I always remembered,
I can hear you in my head.
one I always remembered was Mike Catchbone. Mike was about this high. Mike would be in my office every day and saying, we've got to do something for the veterans. We've got to do more here. And his words were, we must never forget. And he pounded that into me and the city council members so many times. And the changes that we made as a direct result of that one veteran and the people that he represented at that time. We built a new Veterans Memorial Drive, and we cut that down to make it look softer. We built a beautiful memorial up there that I believe is second to none in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We started paying attention to the veterans in this community, and we never forgot. He made sure that we had a crowd at every Veterans Day, every Memorial Day, because he cared. And he also reminded me of one other fact. When you're talking at a ceremony, and whether it be Memorial Day or Veterans Day, remember that there are veterans in that audience who are suffering from the ill effects of the war that they fought in. And many of those veterans are here today in this audience who are suffering from effects of that. That's why we must continue, as we have done in the state of Massachusetts, in making sure that no veterans goes without the services that they need and they deserve. We're very fortunate here in North County to have Curtis as one of our leaders in getting that done. Whether it's an insurance problem, whether it's a burial problem, whatever it may be, those services have to be continued. And I say thank you to all the people who made this happen today. I know that former Mayor Alkenbright's here. He played a role in getting the flags at the memorial up there that we built. But all those that have served our country over the years. As Wayne Soares so eloquently said and loudly said to all of us, never forget who we are and where we came from. Congratulations on a job well done.
All right, next. The mic is not cooperating. All right, next up is the commander of the American Legion Post 125, Mr. Mike Lewis.
Thank you, Curtis. I'd like to call up at this time Patrick Bulger and his team that worked on the banners. It is my pleasure to present to you a certificate of appreciation for your civics class, obtaining information for each hometown hero through questionnaires and interviews, making the program more personal than just a picture. Adding this personal information to all the banners, as well as the location of the banner, is a special way to honor and add recognition to all that have served, living and deceased. You and your students should be very proud of the tireless work you've done for our veteran families. We at the American Legion Frank R. Stiles Post 125 thank you, and we're lucky to have you in our community. Patrick's wife said it best when she said, these kids worked extremely hard to create the website, developed through thoughtful questions, and compassionately interview veterans and their families. They are wise beyond their years and did an outstanding job. You guys can stay up here. At this time, I'd like to get Josh Meswar, Gregory King, and his team from the McCann Technical CAD program. Guys, it's my pleasure to present to you a certificate of appreciation for your work in designing, modeling, and drawing the plans for 100 brackets needed to display the Hometown Hero banners, improving the design of the current brackets by reverse engineering to create a sturdier version. You should be very proud of the work you've done for the veterans and their families. We at the American Legion Frank R. Stiles Post 125 thank you. The City of North Adams and its veterans are very lucky to have you in our community. Now I'd like to have John Klein and Glenn Andrews in the McCann Technical High School Metal Fab program. We'd like to thank you for your work in fabricating the 100 brackets needed to display the Hometown Hero banners. Your student-led improved design makes the new brackets watertight. Your involvement in this project was not only substantial savings to the city, but a demonstration of professional skills you've learned at McCann. You should be very proud of the work you've done for the veterans and their families. We at the American Legion Frank R. Stiles Post 125 thank you. The City of North Adams and its veterans are very lucky to have you in our community. First of all, I'd like to thank Curtis for kicking this project off, and thank you for your service. I'd like to thank McCann Superintendent Jim Brosnan for accepting the opportunity to initiate this program, and thank him also for his service. The teachers all gave 100% of the credit to these students. As Glenn Andrews used the phrase, student-led, well, I believe the faculty deserves just a little credit. After all, the skills used by these students, they learned from you. You gave them training and resources needed to initiate, solve problems, and make improvements. And last but not least, I'd like to thank all the students that had hit the ground running to complete this project in a short period of time. You should all be proud of the work you've done. When you graduate, whether you go into civilian workforce or the military, continue the work ethic and quality you've demonstrated here, and you'll be very successful. Thanks, guys.
we can get one more round of applause for Drury McCann students. So next up on the program is the reading of all of the honorees for the Hometown Hero banner that are throughout the city. And in doing that, we have three eighth grade students from Drury High School that will be reading all 132 names. Gabby Packard, Olivia Iris, and Paige Burdick.
Good morning. My name is Paige Burdick. This is Gabby Packard, and this is Olivia Iris.
Just talk right into
Thank you. Daniel F. Alcombright Jr., U.S. Army, April 1943 to November 1945. Raymond G. Alcombright, U.S. Army, June 1943 to October 1945. Bruno F. Andreatta, U.S. Navy, May 1943 to April 1946. Anthony J. Arabia, U.S. Army, October 1943 to November 1946. Edward N. Archambault, U.S. Marine Corps, March 1942 to October 1945. Arthur F. Aubin, U.S. Army, December 1943 to December 1945. Edward Baxey, U.S. Navy, April 1952 to April 1956. Leon K. Berry, U.S. Coast Guard, June 1942 to June 1946. Anthony E. Beverly, U.S. Marine Corps, September 1999 to September 2003. George C. Blair, U.S. Army, April 1942 to December 1945. Earl Gary Blake, National Guard, October 1971 to April 1992, as well as April 2002 to May 2008. Danforth H. Blanchard, U.S. Army, November 1944 to July 1946. Thomas N. Blue, U.S. Army, June 1940 to October 1945. George C. Bolus, U.S. Army, November 1942 to September 1943. Arzo J. Bormolini, U.S. Marine Corps, September 1943 to May 1946. Victor Borchetti, U.S. Army, October 1942 to January 1946. Alfred H. Boyer, U.S. Army, January 1955 to November 1957. James E. Breen, U.S. Navy, August 1944 to June 1946. Thomas J. Breen, U.S. Army, April 1918 to June 1919. Halsey Bullitt, U.S. Navy, June 1968 to April 1972. Michael L. Bullitt, U.S. Navy, August 1973 to July 1976. Ronald L. Bullitt, U.S. Navy, March 1951 to February 1955. Robert F. Cardamino, U.S. Navy, September 1953 to January 1957. Travis P. Carlson, U.S. Marine Corps, January 2010 to July 2015. Louis B. Castaselli, U.S. Army, June 1953 to December 1954.
Louis J. Castaselli, U.S. Marine Corps, June 1952 to September 1955. Michael G. Catchambone, U.S. Navy, December 1942 to January 1946. George A. Champagne, U.S. Navy, February 1942 to September 1945. Michael F. Cirillo, U.S. Army, August 1942 to June 1945. Henry J. Contois, U.S. Army, July 1943 to March 1946. Giacomo Casalio, U.S. Army, July 1917 to January 1919. Daryl P. Dean, U.S. Navy, January 1987 to August 2002. John T. DeMarsico, U.S. Air Force, September 1984 to September 2006. Michael R. DeMarsico II, U.S. Army, killed in action, Operation Enduring Freedom, February 2011, August 2012. Philip J. Dakota Jr., U.S. Army, March 1943 to December 1945. Richard H. Dickinson, U.S. Army, September 1952 to September 1954. Carlo P. Domachini, U.S. Army, August 1941 to April 1946. Nelson J. Dunn, U.S. Navy, April 1943 to November 1945. Anthony Duplantis Jr., U.S. Marine Corps, January 2007 to this present day. Russell W. Durant Sr., Army National Guard, June 1940 to November 1945. Curtis R. DeRocher, U.S. Army, August 2001 to August 2021. Scott W. Felkin, Army National Guard, December 1990 to September 1997. William C. Felkin, U.S. Navy, March 1952 to April 1955. George H. Filio, U.S. Navy, May 1944 to February 1946. George H. Forshaw, U.S. Navy, November 1943 to December 1945. Samuel F. Fulginiti, U.S. Navy, January 1942 to October 1945. George L. Galley, U.S. Marine Corps as well as U.S. Army. He served from October 1943 to November 1945, as well as June 1948 to April 1952. Arthur W. Gardner III, U.S. Army National Guard, August 1984 to November 2004. William H. Gardner, U.S. Navy, March 1942 to September 1945. Francis Fritz Gelati, U.S. Army, October 1942 to January 1946.
Paul A. Gelati Sr., U.S. Marines, June 1952 to June 1955. Valentino J. Girardi, U.S. Army, August 1953 to December 1950. Ernest J. Godbout Sr., U.S. Army, September 1942 to September 1943. Robert A. Grandchamp, U.S. Marine Corps, October 2014 to October 2018. Gordon A. Green, U.S. Army, killed in action during the Korean War, April 1942 to July 1950. John B. Howland Jr., U.S. Army, September 1968 to September 1971. Joseph F. Janiga, U.S. Army, February 1941 to October 1945. Leon A. King, U.S. Army, January 2005 to August 2008.
Leo P. Lefebvre, U.S. Army, March 1943 to October 1945.
Thomas P. Leonasio, U.S. Marine Corps, December 1943 to September 1945. Leon C. Lescarbo, U.S. Army, April 1965 to January 1967. Ralph J. LeSure Sr., U.S. Navy, October 1943 to April 1946. Richard L. Levesque, U.S. Army, November 1951 to November 1953. Michael D. Lewis, U.S. Navy, December 1977 to April 1994. Nicholas Lilly, Army National Guard, September 2008 to the present day. Francis A. Livesey, U.S. Army, September 1946 to January 1948. Donald A. Maxey, U.S. Army, October 1945 to December 1946. Edward J. Maxey, U.S. Army, February 1951 to January 1953. Lawrence P. Maxey Jr., U.S. Army, May 1943 to January 1946. Thomas F. Maxey, U.S. Army, June 1957 to June 1960.
Raymond F. Maher, U.S. Army, January 1945 to January 1946.
Daniel A. Mahoney, U.S. Army, killed in action in World War II, March 1943 to February 1945.
Edward G. Marino, U.S. Navy, October 1968 to May 1970.
Peter J. Maruco, U.S. Army, March 1942 to January 1946. Joseph A. Maruco, U.S. Navy, January 1942 to January 1946.
Francis Bobo J. Mastriani, U.S. Marines, February 1942 to October 1945. Robert E. Mastriani, U.S. Army, June 1961 to June 1964.
Michael J. McCarran, Massachusetts National Guard in U.S. Army Reserves, September 1977 as well as July 1983. He then served from April 2001 to July 2018.
Robert P. McCarthy, U.S. Army, March 1953 to February 1955. Richard C. Millett, U.S. Army, October 1956 to September 1958. Arthur R. Miller, U.S. Army, killed in action World War II, November 1941 to June 1944. Norbert J. Miller, U.S. Army, killed in action World War II, served May 1943 to September 1944. William J. Morandi, U.S. Army, April 1951 to April 1953. Raymond J. Morocco, U.S. Army Air Forces, January 1942 to October 1945. Charles P. Oakes, U.S. Navy, July 1961 to July 1965. Albert R. O'Connor, U.S. Army, November 1944 to December 1946. Grover L. Oliver, U.S. Army, November 1940 to August 1945. Floyd E. Pettibone, U.S. Marine Corps, October 1940 to November 1946.
Herbert Hervey Putnam, U.S. Navy, February 1952 to February 1956.
Howard A. Reardon, U.S. Army, December 1952 to November 1954. John F. Revard, U.S. Army, January 1946 to June 1947. Robert P. Revard, U.S. Army, October 1940 to October 1945. William C. Revard, U.S. Army Air Forces, November 1942 to October 1945. William L. Revard, U.S. Army, March 1918 to March 1919. Leon L. Revard, U.S. Army, killed in action World War II, September 1942 to January 1944. Gary Rondo Sr., U.S. Air Force, January 2004 to June 2025. Anthony J. Sacco, U.S. Army Air Forces, February 1942 to September 1945. Joseph A. Sacco, U.S. Army Air Forces, August 1943 to September 1945. Pascal N. Sacco, U.S. Army, March 1943 to November 1945. Peter P. Sacco, U.S. Army, August 1942 to January 1946.
Ralph A. Sacco, U.S. Army, October 1943 to April 1946. Samuel M. Sacco, U.S. Army, killed in action during World War II, February 1942 to March 1945. Harry F. Saunders, U.S. Marine Corps, February 1945 to August 1946. Eugene B. Skirbo, U.S. Army, January 1944 to June 1945. Ryan T. Shea, U.S. Air Force, September 2000 to September 2024. Ryan D. Sheehan, U.S. Air Force, April 2008 to this present day. Louis R. Sinclitico, U.S. Army, November 1942 to March 1945. George S. Smith, U.S. Army, April 1918 to August 1919. Edward G. Sprague, U.S. Navy, August 1948 to March 1950. Christopher J. Stanley, U.S. Marine Corps, February 2002 to February 2006. Jason T. Stanley, U.S. Army, April 2002 to April 2022. Arthur J. Tanguay Jr., U.S. Air Force, June 1946 to May 1949.
John B. Tassone, U.S. Navy, January 1944 to February 1946. William E. Therian, U.S. Army, July 1943 to January 1946. Clifton R. Thomas, U.S. Army, September 1951 to September 1954. Rocco Tremarchi, U.S. Navy, March 1952 to March 1955. Gillo Jean A. Vivory, U.S. Army, June 1943 to February 1946. Augustus E. Walden Jr., U.S. Navy, February 1943 to February 1946. Clarence A. Walker, U.S. Army, November 1943 to March 1946. Lucas J. Waters, U.S. Marine Corps, August 1999 to June 2002. Brayton Whitney, U.S. Navy, October 1942 to January 1946. Gerald Larkey L. Willett, U.S. Army, January 1943 to January 1946. Craig A. Williams, U.S. Army, August 2011 to April 2017. Zachary J. Wood, Army National Guard, February 2002 to February 2009.
Carlton R. Wright, U.S. Army as well as U.S. Air Force and U.S. Navy. He served July 1953 to July 1959 as well as July 1959 to December 1962 and finally January 1963 to July 1993.
Charles E. Wright, U.S. Marines, August 1942 to November 1945. Andrew P. Zoido, Jr., U.S. Army National Guard and U.S. Navy, January 1964 to January 1970, as well as February 1974 to May 1997. Andrew P. Zoido, Sr., U.S. Navy, March 1944 to September 1944. Anthony J. Zoido, Sr., U.S. Navy, April 1944 to May 1946. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, ladies. At this time, Mayor Maxey and her family, Mother Teresa Maxey, Sister Libby, and Cousin Susan are all going to walk across the road and do our first Thank you. Now we will play tap.
Color. Preside.
Pastor Dave.
For just a few seconds, just look around this scene for just a moment. Take a look at who is here. Observe what has taken place today. And pause for just a moment to think about the life that we are given here in the United States of America. We are able to do this and so much more because of them. And it is for them that we gather today. Amen.
The jury band's going to play Stars and Stripes Forever, and then they're going to play the Armed Forces Medley. So when your song plays, for your branch, if you would like to stand, please do. couple of things. So I want to say, if this is going to cooperate, I want to say thank you to the Jury Band, the American Legion, Color Guard Post 125, the Fire Department, the Police Department, EMS, for all being out here today. And then again, for everybody who put their hands on this project, thank you again. I also want to, the mayor touched on it earlier, but I do want to say it one more time. So for Carlo Domenichini, he's lived through 2 pandemics. He's seen the 150th anniversary of our country. He's been through lived during the era. He's lived during the era of every major war that we've had in the last 2 centuries. He's a World War II veteran, and he's our oldest living person, really, in North Adams. Let's give him a big round of applause, please. Couple last things and we're done. I have a Facebook page for the Veteran Services, so please follow it. We put all of our events on there. A couple events that are coming up, the Memorial Day Parade, which will start at the American Legion at 9:30, and then we'll walk to the Veterans Memorial. We'll do a small ceremony there. June 14th, Flag Day event in Cheshire at the Town Hall. June 20th is our annual Veterans Picnic at the Greylock Club Pavilion. We have gift baskets that we raffle off. It's a huge event. Boston Seafood will cater it. So please, widows, veterans, spouses, come and enjoy the time that we'll have out there. August 7th is going to be when North Adams becomes a Purple Heart City. So August 7th, 3 o'clock will be the ceremony right here on the lawn. And then again, follow the Facebook page and all the events are on there. Thank you for coming out here. If you have not figured out where your banner is, please go to the tent in the back. We have a listing of where every veteran's banner is. There's also probably still coffee and pastries back there. Again, thank you, and I hope that you enjoy your banner.